Hello, and welcome to Beyond the Point podcast with me, Allie Christensen. I'm curating the content I wish I had had as a dancer and creating strong, healthy, thriving dancers for the future. Not only am I your host and ex-professional dancer, but I own Align Fitness, a cross-training studio for dancers here in Costa Mesa, California, and am the creator of online courses for dancers such as the Dancer Strong program, lower body flexibility, and Turnout for Dancers. Welcome back to the podcast. Today is a fun day talking to a professional dancer and one who didn't have the most traditional start to dance. I really love when I get to hear stories that are not of the common, where we're like, oh, I started dancing when I was 3. There's nothing wrong with that story, but it's really fun to see successful dancers who have a different story. Maybe did different things, had different challenges, and that is today's dancer. So Macyn Vogt is a dancer with Sarasota Ballet. She has trained in amazing places, and her mindset is wonderful. I loved listening to how she tackles challenges, some of the things that she did when she was younger that floated into ballet class. And honestly, when we got into talking a little bit about maybe some of the challenges that she experienced when she was younger or things that might have changed her mindset, it was interesting to hear what she had to say about her body. It was not something that a lot of dancers say. So I'm excited for you guys to listen and have a different perspective on what a professional dancer might be going through. Also, she is a dancer who got a job during a crazy time in life, and the initiation into the company, I would say, the way that she transitioned into the company and has been working with the company for this first season is different than any other season would be. And you dancers who do make that transition during this past time, or maybe even this season, it's a different experience. So it's nice to hear all these things. So let's just jump right into the episode. Hi, Macyn. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for coming on.
Hi, Allie. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
I'm so excited to have you here. Can you start us right off by telling everyone a little bit about yourself, as well as kind of your dancing history and what's leading you up to this very moment in time?
Oh boy. Okay. Well, my name is Macyn Vogt, and I'm currently a dancer with the Sarasota Ballet. And going back to when I started when I was 12 years old at a little studio in Indiana called Evansville Ballet. And from there, I went to become a Joffrey ballet trainee in Chicago. And then I went to San Francisco Ballet School for 2 years. And then from there, I went to Charlotte Ballet too for 2 years. And now I am here in Sarasota, Florida. So that's a very shortened
I love it. Very, very concise here. You have jumped around a lot. Actually, I don't think jump around sounds like the right word. You have done a lot, because it sounds like they're for very perfected amounts of time, where you've been at amazing schools and amazing places to train. And you started late in life for a dancer.
Yeah, I did. And I feel very fortunate to have gone where I have gone and to have trained with who I've trained with. It's just, I've learned so much in each city that I've been in by all these different people. And I feel like all of that has really come together and made me a well-rounded dancer.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to think.
Yeah. Well, we're always trying to be more well-rounded as styles evolve and times evolve, and the demands of a dancer are more. We have to continue to keep being more well-rounded.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Always evolving.
So what did you do as a kid before you danced, and what made you jump into dancing? We say like it's so late. It's not, but it is for the dance world, right?
12, you're still a child. You're not even a teenager yet, but somehow in the ballet world, that is considered old, for starting. Well, before I started dancing, I was a really intense soccer player. And I loved the sport so much. I was on multiple teams at a time. And we traveled around for competitions, and then I had private sessions with a coach to kind of like how we do in ballet, like private lessons, but for soccer. So it's just a different type of competitive and, technical mastery. So I was on school teams, all that jazz, and I did it for years and years. I was also just I like to try a lot of different things and be involved in a lot of stuff. So I was also a swimmer, and I also tried like being in a choir at my church and just a bunch of random stuff. But I was a very serious soccer player up until 12 years old.
I love that. And did just one day you said, I want to try ballet, and then you were good at it, so you stuck with it?
Not necessarily. We had like a little summer break, and I finally had like a little bit of a rest in between like the seasons of soccer that I was in. And my sister was a dancer, and my mom was like, well, I don't really want to drive around a lot anymore. So it would be really fun if you could just, have the same interest as your sister. And
yeah,
just for one summer, like, let's try it. And I was like, okay, I guess I will. And I jumped into classes, and there were like so few of us in this class. So it was just like, it wasn't like a specific level. It was just a bunch of people in a class, but a bunch of people being like 6 people. And I was so behind. And obviously I was like, what did I get myself into? And, but my mindset was that of, this is kind of like a game. It's kind of funny, like how bad I was at first, because I had no idea what I was doing, but I was figuring it out. And I really I'm a very visual learner. So I would watch other people, and I would just be like, okay, this is how it's supposed to look. Like, how can my body do that? And I would visualize what I could or should be doing. And then I would try my best. And I still wasn't very good at it, but it was kind of like a game, and it became fun for me. So yeah, that's how I started.
I love that, because it can be, we can let fear paralyze us when we try new things, when new experiences come up, and it gets worse and worse as we get older, if we aren't actively making the decision to try new, scary, hard things at the beginning. And I do think that that's a big skill to be learned as a young child. And I think that depending on your dance upbringing, maybe trying new styles or going into new studios, you get a little bit of that. But dancers tend to stick with dance for most or all of their childhood, and are not dipping their toes in other sports or activities like you do when you play soccer or basketball. Something I always refer back to from other athletes, especially like in high school age, is that if you play basketball, most of the time you also play football in the off season, or vice versa, or you swim and you run. Like, you do multiple things because there's a season for sports, but dance is just an all-going, all-encompassing thing. And I think that sometimes we do ourselves a disservice, not only physically, but also mentally, by sticking to one thing. So I love that you turn it into a game, and that probably has continued through your career now. Whenever you take something new on, do you try to find the, I guess, that little sense of like exploration and game part of it when you're doing something new now?
Absolutely. Yes. I credit that game mindset with my ability, with how I progressed kind of quickly when I was 12. So that game mindset is basically how I did that. Like, without even thinking about it, I just made that mindset work for me. And that's how I progressed so quickly. And now I try to utilize that same mindset, but actually calling upon myself, oh, I need to use this now, and not get upset about what I'm doing incorrectly or what I'm not able to do yet. I have to change something about it, and then it will become easier, or the coordination about it, and then it will become so easy. So it's really just finding that key or that puzzle piece to make something easy or work for you.
I love it. I love it, because something that I see with dancers that I work with, or well, I see in the dance world, and then it's something we work with when I'm working with specific dancers, is kind of taking your eye out of the mirror. And we've all heard it before, like move for yourself, understand your body. But if you could look at it and say, I don't have the right recipe yet. I'm figuring out what piece of the puzzle needs to fit in. I'm going to try this and it didn't work. I'm going to try this and it didn't work. This piece works and now I can releve well, or whatever it is. I can see how that takes something that's can be very serious and changes the mental game for yourself to be something exciting and inquisitive.
Yeah. And sometimes that quote unquote puzzle piece isn't like a physical thing. It's like a mental cue. So whenever you're like doing a pirouette and you think of 1, 2, 3, or some sort of rhythm or some sort of also mental cue about the passe, or the arm, opposing arm or opposition, or spiraling up, like that can also be a quote unquote puzzle piece.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody processes their movement differently. And when you figure out how you tend to process movement, you're going to have that step up for yourself. And then we just always have to try different things. I know I try to change my cues for dancers frequently, which is sometimes hard to think of something new, especially if I can tell it's not working for the dancer. It's not clicking. They're trying so hard, but it's just, you can tell it's not coming naturally to them. I do believe that a lot of the time, then I, as the instructor, or I, as my own mental coach, if I was the dancer, have to try to figure out something else to think about that will create the right result that I'm looking for. And that's challenging, but also a big part of, especially being an advanced dancer, is changing the quality of movement that you're doing, not just the technicality of having a beveled foot or a straight leg.
Right. And that's an incredible quality of a teacher, to have the ability to think of one specific cue that they are wanting the dancer to do, but thinking of it in different ways, because one thing that works for one dancer or for that teacher will not work for another dancer or another soon-to-be teacher. Like it's all so subjective, and everyone's body is so different that you have to find what works for you. And if you have that teacher that's willing to think outside of the box or just try to help go the extra mile, I think like that is just so valuable to have. And if you find a teacher like that, they're golden.
Yeah, I agree. Were there any teachers as you moved, because you went several places, some big places, is there anyone that sticks out that helped you unlock like a big chunk of potential, we'll say, or something like that?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So when before I went to San Francisco Ballet, I was a dancer that, I was like copycat. No. I looked at someone and I was just trying to do what they did. I didn't know internally and like anatomically what I was supposed to be doing, how I was supposed to be thinking, and like what smart, exercises I should be doing to really, lock into my technique and find my own turnout. Like you can't just, slam your feet into a 180-degree first position and say, okay, I'm turned out. Like you have to really know and, know your facility inside and out. And technique wise, I think that the most influential person in my career was Tina LeBlanc at San Francisco Ballet School. She was so incredibly vital to my, coming into my own as a dancer and knowing what I needed to do and just training. She's such a great teacher, and she has these amazing combinations that just, they're so hard and they're so fun at the same time. And it really is, when I was working with her, it was like a game again. It became so hard that I was like, I could think of it like, oh, I'm a terrible dancer. I hate the way I look. I'm never going to be good at this. Or I could think, I'm going to take on this challenge and I'm going to see how far I can go with this and like how I can make this work. And she pushed me to be a better dancer. And I really credit her with like so much of my technique. Sorry, excuse me. I credit her with so much of my technique and my now knowledge of ballet. So
that's amazing. Did you get to work with her the whole 2 years that you were there, or was she someone that was for a shorter time?
I was lucky enough to have her as my primary teacher for 2 years. So I had other teachers that were incredibly, influential, like Sophie Silve and Patrick Armand and Mark Bush and Laszlo Berdo and all these great people that I'm so fortunate to have worked with, because I still think of all these different little things that they've said to me, and I pull from my little folder of corrections that I have stowed away when I need help. But most everything, like most of my technique has come from Tina LeBlanc for sure.
Well, I think that every dancer seems to have somebody that they connected with that made the most sense to the way they think or their body moves, or it was the right place, right time. And we all have that person that we think of right away. That's like, this person assisted me to unlock potential, for whatever area that was. But you, having experienced so many different teachers in your career so far, do you feel like that has been a value to have lots of different eyes on you and ways of saying something and technique? Or do you feel like having not one teacher, but one way of moving or thinking is more beneficial as you're training?
I think it is. I think both. You need both for sure. I think it is ideally it would be, you have your one or two or maybe even three teachers that you see very often and work with every single day, and they know you, your technique, what you can do, what you're capable of, and all that jazz. And you have that for maybe a few years, several years, but then once you're ready and you're solid and you need to go exploring or find a more grounded movement, like in contemporary, which is so prominent now in every single company, you then definitely need to expand your repertoire of teachers. You need to go outside of this one studio you've been in. You need to go outside and network as well, because that's a really big part of how you get into this industry.
Yeah.
But I think, you need a little bit of both.
I like that. I agree. Right now I work with a lot of studios in the area, and then virtually everyone's all over the place, but there's a couple specific classical ballet studios that I have students I see from there. And one of their struggles sometimes is when they get to this age that you're talking about, this technical level, they have to start exploring for exactly what you said. And this has actually been something we've been talking about with some of my students more recently, is like, you have a foundation. You don't have to desert what you're doing, but you have to be able to do other things. And if you're in a studio that's not their focus, it's not a bad thing. But if you want to be a professional dancer, I can't name one ballet company that doesn't use contemporary now. It doesn't exist. I don't know, 20 years ago it did. There were still companies that were only doing classical ballets, but that's not the case now. So you do, not only for your training, but for your networking and for your hireability, you do have to reach outside of your studio. Even if your studio is providing multiple styles, amazing teachers, you still have to network outside of that. And that can only happen by you putting your foot outside the door and going and doing something else.
Absolutely. At my home studio in Evansville, my teacher, Mark Bush, used this analogy. He said, my dancers are like little cupcakes. And whenever they're here at this studio, like we're baking, like we're creating the foundation, we're creating the recipe, and we're like, waiting just a little bit of time, at 350 degrees or whatever. And then whenever you're ready, whenever the timer's done, like, then you can put on the frosting and then the sprinkles and whatnot. So you have that strong foundation, and you have the ability to, go from classical to contemporary, and you understand all these different types of dance. And then you can go and go the extra mile and like put on the frosting and become a real cupcake. So like that was a cute little analogy.
I love that.
I've like kind of remembered all throughout my life. So
I love that. So I also use a cupcake analogy for the way that you train.
Okay.
I always say that the core, so the shoulder girdle, the hip girdle, the core, that's your cake. So it needs to be like robust. You want it to hold shape and be able to do amazing things like build a structure. And then your elbows, wrists, and fingers are the frosting, they're the decorations. You can do whatever you want on top of the cupcake after you have a solid base. So I use a similar analogy in a different way. I think we like sweets here.
Oh, yes.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh. So now you are working with your second company. Is that correct?
Yes.
What has this experience been like going from not only, that first jump into company life or trainee life? That's quite a change from being a student to you're a little bit more in charge of your quote academic teaching of yourself, showing up to class. That's a different experience than being in academy. But what has it been like to go from one company to a different company and make that shift? We've been through a crazy year, so it's been different, but tell us a little bit what you've been experiencing making that shift.
Well, at both Charlotte Ballet at Charlotte Ballet, I took class with the company every day, no uniform. It was up to you to come to class and, keep your facility like progressing and work hard, remember choreography and whatnot. And then jumping into Sarasota Ballet, I can't really compare it quite yet because I didn't go into a real normal season at first.
Yeah.
I went into pods of like 4 people at a time. I was introduced to this company, 4 or 5 different people at a time. And so it was a very different kind of transition.
This is something that so many people are dealing with or even facing right now. I know it's a different story here in the US as to where we are in our opening and productions of theater. I have students who are in countries that are in complete lockdown still as to the date that we're recording this. So we're all in different spots, and a common thing we're still experiencing it is that first time coming back into the studio or coming into your job or making the transition from I have been at home for 1.5 years or more, and now I'm stepping back into what we call real life, where it's a little bit more of the normal situation that we knew before. And that's a major transition, let alone, I think, switching jobs, switching companies.
Mm-hmm. It's been great. The company at Sarasota Ballet everyone at Sarasota Ballet has been super welcoming and very kind. And I don't know what to say about the transition because it's so strange.
Well, and it sounds like it's still happening.
Yeah, because we haven't all been in the same studio consistently. We've all been in pods, and it's so strange because this is the most right now has been in these maintenance classes. It's been the most amount of people that have been in the same room for a class, and we're still figuring out like where everyone stands at bar and where you can't go. And some people have left, the company, so that spot might be open, but it might be taken by another person, and you don't want to, disrupt the flow of, the hierarchy of class. It's very strange. But it's been a much easier transition than I thought it would be because of the kindness of the company and the kindness of Ian Webb and Margaret and everyone here. It's just, they've been so welcoming, and they want to make sure that all the newbies have all the information that they need. Like, here's the studio. Like, I got a little tour when I first got here, and they want to make sure you're comfortable, especially now during this time where, things are very uncertain and you're coming into a new city and you don't know anyone or anything besides the ballet. So yeah.
That's so great. Well, we'll have to do a follow-up and see how this season goes for you. I mean, it sounds like it's going to be amazing. But we'll have to catch up with you and see how this next year goes as it unfolds.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's so exciting to feel like but I know the feeling of getting back into normal, like doing things that you love and are good at and drive you, and being back in that environment. It's thrilling. And I can't believe that we've gone so long in such a altered, like, medium ground here. It's kind of incredible that everyone's made it work so well, and that so many dancers like yourself have kept yourself going through so much downtime and are coming back and ready to go and being ready to take on something completely new. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, I am amazed that we're still going and that we're able to put on shows and dance as much as we have been. This past year, Sarasota Ballet had a lot of virtual programs, and we've been lucky enough to be in the studio and have our own little stage that we can rehearse and have multiple casts of each show. So I was able to dance a whole bunch more than some of my friends who were at different companies in different cities that had worse scenarios than I. So I feel incredibly lucky. Yeah, I'm so grateful for all the opportunities that I've gotten, and to be able to show, my dancing ability to the company, whether or not that be on stage every weekend, but rather in a virtual program,
Yeah, totally. Have there been any mental challenges that you have come through, or that you're knowing you're working on? I would say this year's been rough, but also as you come into your professional career, and I think that most of the time we have a little bit more insight as we look back when we're a little bit younger, and some of the things that maybe we were thinking. You've already talked about your mental drive and state and the game aspect of things. And, it sounds like you've had a handle on some aspects of this, but dance world's rough. Are there any things you look back and think, yeah, if I could have changed that just a little bit or a lot, maybe it'd make a difference, or I wish someone else would have told me this kind of thing?
I don't really have any regrets or ways of thinking that I wish I would have changed. I think that I've always been small, and it's kind of an insecurity of mine that I might be too small for some companies. Like, I'm either too short or just I appear too small in general to be considered to fit in with their company, to fit in with the women that they have on stage. And whenever I was in school and I was at the peak of my school years, auditioning for wanting to be in main companies, I was working so much with the San Francisco Ballet and their company rep, and then our own school rep, and then our normal classes, and then auditions. And I was working so hard, and I was just I look back and I'm wow, I don't know, I didn't look like a woman or whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I want to say that, but when I was able to relax a little bit after I did get my first job, and the workload wasn't as crazy as it was whenever I was at my peak of busyness. And then I just kind of relaxed a little bit, and my body just became what it was supposed to be, basically, that's when I started getting more opportunities and noticed in class more and given more roles and more job offers, like if I was auditioning. I don't know how to word this. It's really hard.
You know what? I kind of
really
love
ever talk about this.
I kind of love the struggle. Not to be mean. Not to be mean.
So sorry.
No, this right here, like the struggle to talk about this is the struggle of the dance world. It's the struggle of being a woman. You're never the right shape or size in our own minds or in other people's minds. I think that it's wonderful for other people to hear you say, I felt too small, because I'm going to be honest. I don't hear very many people say, I felt like I was too small. Most dancers are saying, I felt like I was too big. Now, first of all, too big is in your own brain, but we're looking at someone who's a size 2 and they're saying they're too big. And it's like, man, this is a crazy standard that you're holding for your own self. So to hear you say that you fell on the opposite side of the spectrum, where you're like, I felt too small. I really love that, because even though you didn't say very much about it, I can imagine some of the self-talk or insecurities that might have come up as you're trying to look something different. And that's something that's universal across the board. It's not just you, it's not just me, that trying to be something different, especially in the ballet world, I think happens to everyone on some level. And as you were talking, I was actually thinking about this. I actually follow this woman. She's a business mentor, but she's also into fashion, and she's very much about dressing, not for your body type, quote, quote, but how you can express yourself and feel good in your skin. So learning what it is that you like about your body and also the clothes that you choose. So you can look at things and say, I like this, I like that, I want this, I want that. And it sounds like as you got more comfortable and realized maybe what you were good at, what your strengths were, that you had something to offer, not just you weren't just like a picture of a dancer that was trying to fit in with the core. There were other things that were needed besides what your arabesque looked like or what your body looked like standing in one place. You just got more comfortable and more confident and started expressing the art and skill that you do have. And you said that you had a little bit of that copycat mentality where it's like, I'll see you do it and then I'll do it too. And having to figure that out, I'm sure that was another unlocking moment for you. At least it sounds like it, where it's like, okay, I have to figure out how to do this for myself and how it feels in my body if I want to go forward in this career. Does that sound at all like anything that you're thinking? I'm repeating back what I'm hearing.
No, I'm so sorry. I've made it so difficult for you. It's very hard to put into words because I haven't had to speak about this a lot, but I don't know. I just feel like some people get the idea that ballerinas are dancers, ballet dancers are supposed to be like stick thin, and like that's how you become a good dancer. And I was like naturally small, so I fit that, needed like more muscle, and I needed to be stronger in these ways that the ballet world was asking of me, to jump higher, to turn out, to go, dance for a longer amount of time. And whenever I started lifting weights and paying more attention to the ways that I should be strong for ballet and how they will translate into the studio, and then I became more of like almost more muscular and more of like my lines became better whenever I worked in specific ways. And I was no longer just like a little stick figure. That's when I got more job offers, got more roles, got more opportunities, and got better feedback. And I think it's really important for girls that are like going through puberty and growing up in this world to know that being the spitting image of a ballerina does not mean that you will have the ability to dance like one. Like, you need strong muscles, you need good stamina, and you don't want to look like you can't get through a ballet. Artistic directors do not trust that. They do not want to hire that. They do not want to pay you for that. They want strong people that,
I'm just
hard.
going preach right here. This is what I'm talking about, guys. I'm not just saying it. They're hearing it from a professional ballerina. Oh my gosh. Yes. And there are so many dancers that the transition, and this happens naturally in our bodies as we age, not old, but as you go from a young child into getting your menstrual cycle and your hormones change and your body changes. And we tend to, in the past, look at that body change, that age of like 12 to 15 as like, oh no, her body's changing. And it's like, oh no, this is where it gets interesting, because you are so right. Nobody wants to watch someone on stage and they're like biting their fingernails. Like, is she going to roll over her ankle? Like, I can't tell you how many ballets I've sat through like that. Even professional ballets, but like the studio ballets, and sometimes it has nothing to do with their technique. It's just that their dancers don't look strong and they don't look capable yet. And that is an element of dance that's not discussed very often. You hit it right on the head. Going from student, pre-professional to capable artist and athlete is what makes you hireable, on top of your technique, of course.
Exactly.
You said you lift weights. I'm sure you do other forms of cross training as well. And it's all with the goal of being the best professional dancer you can be. It's not to be a professional weightlifter. It's a means to make your body have the best lines. And, you're saying I gained muscle, knowing that you also said you felt like you were on the small side of life here. I think a lot of dancers go, oh no, we can't gain muscle and we're going to get bulky, or we're going to lift weights and we're going to get bulky. And I'm looking at you and I've seen you dance and I've seen your Instagram. There is not a bulk thing about you. Yet you're saying I gained muscle. So the ability, let me throw in a little my training 2 cents here. When you add muscle, when you add the ability to stabilize a joint, it has capability to do more, to be more mobile, to create better lines, like you're saying. So if you're somebody who wants longer lines and you're saying, I want to stay skinny, I don't want to have bulk or muscle on me, I'm not going to pick up a weight, I'm not going to do other forms of movement, you're going to have those short, stubby, disconnected lines because your joints can't support the length that you are seeking. So you hit it right on the head just by talking about your progression, that when you started lifting weights, when you started doing other things, when you started, I'm sure, doing other activities as well, your lines as a professional ballerina got better. So there we go. I'm gonna let you keep talking, but
You're summing it up so well. I'm not very good at talking. And thank you.
I just get exactly so excited when dancers say exactly what I think right before I say it. Everyone's like, oh, we know what Allie's going to say. But guys, Macyn said it, not me. This is amazing. This is so good. So I'm very excited to see what you do this season. I think it's going to be a phenomenal season. And I do feel like this will be like the stepping stone into an even better next season as you continue to get comfortable with this new company. And I'm excited to see what your next step is as you go through this company. Where can everyone find you? Because you have a beautiful social media account and you're a stunning dancer. So where can everyone find access to you?
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. My Instagram is just my name, but it's a difficult name to spell. So I'm going to spell it out for you. It's MACYN VOGT, Macyn Vogt. And that is my Instagram.
Wonderful. And really stunning, stunning work on there. So if everyone wants to go look at a beautiful Instagram page, you can go check it out. I will put links in the description below so that you can find her. If you guys are listening and anything that she said kind of hit a note and you thought, I want to know more or want to figure more out about this girl, please go check her out. I'm throwing this at her without saying this to her before, but I'm sure if you told her that you heard her on the Instagram here or on the podcast here, that she'd be happy to chit chat with you through Instagram. So if not, she can say, no, go talk to Allie.
No, absolutely. Come chat with me.
Yeah. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I can't wait to see what this next year brings. We might have to have you back as an update.
Oh, I would love to. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to talk with you.
Thanks, Macyn. Thank you all for listening. And as always, if you have questions or comments, you can find me on Instagram at Align Fitness by Allie. You can also always submit a question, comment, concern on my website under the contact page, which is also alignfitnessbyallie.com. Stay tuned through the rest of the year. We have some big things happening, big people on the podcast, as well as big things happening at Align Fitness. So I'm really excited for what's coming. So thank you all so much for being here. I will see you all here next time on Beyond the Point.